and they
Oh.
get paid pretty well at basic time.
Right.
Oh, I have one of my closest friends is a flight attendant for United, and she always works the holiday, always works Christmas, always.
Well, that's fine if you really want to schedule yourself for Christmas. But if you have already worked your scheduled quota and are willing to work extra hours for triple time, you can work Christmas extra. The smart thing to do is schedule your hours at the beginning of the month and then wait for the triple time call.
Yeah.
Well, she's been there 30 years, so she does her own schedule, and she does all international. So
yeah, I used to like to fly on Halloween. That was always fun. Yeah. People always dressed up.
Right.
People dressed up to fly on Halloween? People haven't dressed up to fly for 30 years.
The flight crew did.
Oh.
Always dressed up.
Really? What did you dress up as, Alan?
I was not a flight crew. I was a mere business passenger.
let's see, who do we have? We are on television already. Let's see.
2, 3, 4.
And Victor is on time. Hello, Victor.
We have a quorum. We have 7.
We definitely have a quorum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 1, 2, 3,
8.
Dennis, would you like?
Oh,
am I calling?
You're gonna call. You're gonna do everything. I'm gonna go to sleep for 20 minutes.
It's not gonna take 20 minutes till we do the chairman. So.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we?
Go ahead.
We have meeting. Oh.
All right. I'm gonna get started here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting, reorganizational meeting and hearing for January 11th, 2022, and a Happy New Year to all. So I will start with reading the announcements. Number 1, call to order and statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the public meeting dates on the municipal bulletin board and website, by sending a copy to the Echo Sentinel newspaper, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. I'm getting some feedback if anybody's not on mute. Okay. Number 2, standard board procedures. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Number 3, meeting cutoff. Announcement is made that as a matter of procedure, it is the intention of the planning board not to continue any matter past 10:30 p.m. at any regular or special meeting of the board unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend the meeting to a later specified cutoff time. Now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Let me get the flag up. Hold on. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, now we have our board attorney, Mr. John Kaplan, who will be doing the oaths of office for our, in this year, it's all reappointees. We have Brendan Ray, Committeeman Ray, excuse me, as our class 1, expiring 12/31/22. We have Teresa Dill as our class 2 member, expiring 12/31/22. Victor Veleza, Committeeman Veleza, class 3, expiring 12/31/22. And Thomas Jones as our class 4, expiring 12/31/25. John, I'll leave it over to you.
All right, of the 4 individuals being resworn, everybody has their oath in front of them, correct? Anybody not have it? So if you just read along with me, obviously state your name, and you'll see halfway through, name your appropriate class.
Brendan and Victor, you'll have to turn on your microphones.
I don't have it. Did you send that, Deb?
I did. It was in it was attachment into the email that I sent. Yeah.
Okay, then that's fine. All right, I'll just pull it up.
I'm still not seeing Victor's microphone.
Okay, I have it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
But we need to hear you. You're muted again, Mr. Committeeman. And do you have a camera?
I mute myself when I'm not talking because I get feedback and my internet connection is beat.
Okay, do you have a camera? I'll just take your word for it that your right hand's raised. Everybody wants to raise their right hand. And just read along with me. I state your name.
Brendan Ray,
You solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the
Support
Constitution
the
of the United
Constitution of the
States
United States
and the state of New Jersey,
and the state of New Jersey,
that I will bear
New
true
Jersey.
faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
The same
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform the duties of planning board
that I will
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of planning board
on the duties of the planning board,
and state your correct class number
class 1 member
Two-member.
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
and that I will not use my office to grant preferential treatment
and I will not use my office to grant
your
preferential
office to give
or seek personal gain,
personal gain,
favor, or advantage not available to the general public.
or advantage to the general public. So help me God.
So help me
So help
God.
me God.
Desire. All right, congratulations. Deb, do you want me to sign these and send them to you electronically?
Well, normally what we do is I have the members drop them off to me, and then John, yeah, then I'll send them over to you and you can sign them and send them back.
All right, that's great.
So once the members get them to me, great.
All right.
Okay. Now for the roll call. Committeeman Ray,
Present.
Committeeman Verleza,
Present.
Ms. Still,
Present.
Mr. Hands,
Yeah.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Malinowski,
Here.
Mr. File,
Here.
Mr. Richardson,
Here.
and Mr. Sandow.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. So the next on our agenda is the election of our chairman for the term expiring January 10th, 2023. So I'm going to open the floor now for nominations for chairman.
I'd like to nominate Dennis Sandow.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing no other nominations, we'll close the nominations and we will do a roll call, a vote for, we have we'll vote for chairman. Sorry, I'm getting feedback again. Okay. Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Richardson,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Ms. Dill,
Yes.
Mr. Hands,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
No.
Mr. Malinowski,
Yes.
Mr. File,
Yes.
and Mr. Sandow.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Sandow.
Thank you.
I will
Thank you.
leave the meeting in your capable hands.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate the confidence from the members of the planning board. Next, we have the election of the vice chairman, and I will open the floor for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Don Richardson.
I'll second.
Can we have a roll call? Or any other nominations? We have a roll call, please.
Yes. Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Mr. File,
Yes.
Committeeman Veleza,
Yes.
Ms. Dill,
Yes.
Mr. Hands,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Malinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Richardson,
Yes.
and Chairman Sando.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you. Look forward to working with everybody.
I appreciate your stepping up into that role.
Yep. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the appointments of our board professionals. We need to get those made so that we can use the board professionals at the hearing, which will follow next. You've all the members have seen the resolutions to appoint the board secretary, the board attorney, the board planner, the board engineer, and an alternate engineer and planner in case the primary have conflicts of interest. John, can we handle these all in one vote, or do we need them separate?
We can do it all in one vote unless somebody has any objection or conflict with either, any of the five, and we'll pull those and do that separately. If anyone has any objection or a conflict.
Does,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Malinowski?
not a conflict or problem, but there was a spelling error on the one resolution for attorney at the bottom. I don't know if it was correct or not. Instead of saying page, it's minor. Instead of saying page, we're at page 1 and 2.
Oh, I spelled the page wrong? Oh,
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's very inconsequential, but it probably should be corrected before.
thank
Oh,
you.
We don't make those kinds of mistakes.
It was probably automatic, right?
I'm glad you caught it now, because then the zoning board would have the same problem.
You're talking about board attorney?
For board attorney,
Yeah.
it says page 1 and 2.
Oh, Pate, P-A-T-E, Pate.
Yeah.
My, what a gross error that is.
Kind of stands out too.
Thank you very much, Tom.
No problem.
Does anyone else have any issue with these first 5 resolutions so that we might want to pull any of them? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolutions 1 through 6. 1 through 5.
1 through 5.
1 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
I think Tom.
Tom? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Tom, which Tom? Mr. Jones or
Malinowski.
Malinowski? Okay, Malinowski. Okay. Mr. File,
Yes.
Mr. Malinowski,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Committeeman Veleza,
Yes.
Ms. Dill, Mr. Hands,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
and Chairman Sando.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you. I have a formality here, and that is, now that I'm the chairman, I'm going to have to switch my background.
Oh, dear.
You also have to change your title, Dennis. You're still listed as a member.
Oh, well, that the secretary will have to do that, but it's not really urgent. The next item on the agenda is the site plan application for the Chimney Rock Pump Station by American Water. And do you want to bring those people in?
Yes, I just promoted Ms. Siegel, and if anybody else related to this, if you could please raise your hand so I can bring you in as panelists. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Come out to panelists. Okay, German C, I think. Okay.
Ms. Siegel, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. And we have Joe, Brian, Mike, you guys on? Good. Okay. Good evening. My name is Victoria Siegel with the law firm of Archer and Griner on behalf of the applicant New Jersey American Water, a public utility regulated by the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. This is an application for either a waiver of site plan approval or in the alternative minor site plan approval, as well as conditional use approval and bulk variance approval in connection with a property located at 342 Valley Road, also known as Block 10910, Lot 12. The applicant operates a public utility sanitary sewer pump station, also known as the Chimney Rock Pump Station, and it's located within an easement area on the property, which is owned by 342 Valley Road LLC. Before we get started, if you would like to swear in and qualify our two experts that we have with us tonight.
Is Mr. Slaughter going to testify?
If necessary, he's
Cool.
available to testify. If you have any questions for him, he's available to answer.
Well, let's just swear all three in at
Sure.
one time. All right, if everybody could raise their right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Siegel?
Thank you. And we also have 3 exhibits with us tonight. And just for the board's benefit, I'll read them into the record. And Joe, you can pull them up as I read them. We have exhibit A1, which is an aerial photograph of the property and the surrounding area. Give you a minute, Joe.
Who's pulling them up? There we go.
Okay. And we also have exhibit A2, which is the site plan. And then exhibit A3, which are photographs of the existing conditions and the proposed new fencing. Okay. And before
These in the app, the photos were not in the application, were they?
I believe they were attached to the site plan, the submitted site plan.
Okay, so these are all noted on record and numbered.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, if I may, 1 sec real quick.
Yeah.
We were provided with the notice that the applicant sent. We did review the notice. The certified mail was sent November 12th, published in the newspaper November 11th. We reviewed it for both content and timeliness. It was 10 days prior to this hearing. So the board does have jurisdiction for this hearing. And you can
And I'm sorry, Mr. Kaplan, if you could please swear in our board planner, Liz Laney. We did not require an engineering report on this application, so it's just Liz Laney that will be testifying for the township.
Ms. Laney, you could raise your right hand. The testimony you're about to give this evening, do you swear is going to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And how would the board like to handle the completeness of the application? Would you like to go through those first, those items?
You can organize that any way you'd like to, probably by starting with testimony from your experts.
Sure. Okay, we can start with testimony. Just a brief overview of our application first. We're requesting a minor site plan approval for the replacement of the existing wood fence with a 6-foot high chain link fence that will have privacy slats and will be located on all sides of the pump station. Right now, the station is currently enclosed on just 3 sides. So the applicant is proposing to completely enclose the pump station and install a gate for safety and security. The bulk variance approval is necessary because the fence will be 6 feet in height around the entire pump station, when fences within the front yards may be a maximum of 4 feet high according to the ordinance. Now we will get into some of our engineering testimony from Mike Nixon. Mike, if you could just state your qualifications and give a brief overview of your background and connection with the property.
Sure. Thanks, Victoria. Good evening, everyone. Michael Nixon. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I work for Kleinfelder, which is an engineering consulting firm hired by New Jersey American Water to assist them in upgrades to the pump station. I'm not sure. I've been practicing and been a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey for 10 plus years, and have a bachelor's in civil engineering and a master's in environmental engineering.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Will the board qualify Mike as an expert in the field of engineering?
Were you here before when we did the job on South Warren Avenue?
No, I wasn't. I believe that was maybe 2 other people from my company.
Okay, so we'll have to qualify you separately.
Okay.
Any objections? Okay, so qualify.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe, if you could pull up exhibit A1, the aerial photograph. Mike, if you could just orient the board towards the property, give a brief overview of what we're looking at here.
Sure. The main road here is Valley Road. The existing Chimney Rock pump station is located within a utility easement along Valley Road. As you can see in the insert, is located in the portion of the property occupied in the parking lot associated with the Chimney Rock Inn restaurant. The Chimney Rock pump station accepts wastewater flow from the 6 buildings within the area along Valley Road, currently within blocks 10910, lots 15, 15.01, and 16, along with the residential home on block 10909, lot 1. The existing 6 buildings are a mix of commercial and residential, which includes the Chimney Rock Inn restaurant. Wastewater flow is conveyed via below grade gravity sewer main to the pump station from each existing building. Wastewater enters the pump station below grade wet well, which houses 2 submersible pumps. These pumps lift and convey flow from the wet well via below grade force main west down Valley Road, discharging into a manhole at a higher elevation, which is outside the aerial here. From there, flow is conveyed via gravity to Long Hill Wastewater Treatment Facility.
Thanks, Mike. And just for the board's benefit, can you describe the size of the pump station?
The overall footprint,
Yes.
it's shown on the site plan 1. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers right off the top of my head, but if we zoom in, yeah, 11
This
feet.
is
By
Exhibit
19 feet.
A2.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It's 11 feet 4 inches by 19 feet 10 inches is the total footprint of the station. You can see the influent manhole coming into the pump station is out near Valley Road, near the shoulder area, and the force main exits to the west and going through a manhole through the parking lot and then west down Valley Road.
Okay, thank you. And can you just briefly describe the service requirements for the pump station? How many times does it get checked? What does the daily service requirements entail?
Sure. The operation of the pump station is fairly minimum on a daily basis. An operator will visit the station daily, do visual checks of the wet well and electrical equipment, along with noting any flow and operating hours of the pumps. Daily check is typically no more than 10, 15 minutes. The only other operation and maintenance would be if there is a substantial issue at the station, blockage or backup or anything. The station operates automatically without the need to be manned. Level sensors and switches within the wet well measure the liquid level and control the pumps on and off. There are 2 pumps, one operational, one standby, should a failure occur in the first pump. Additionally, there's an emergency standby natural gas generator on site to provide backup power should utility power be lost.
Great, thank you. And can you briefly describe the proposed improvements for the pump station?
Sure. New Jersey American Water is proposing to remove the 68 feet of existing wooden fence and replace it with the 68 feet of the 2-inch black chain link fence with privacy slats. Additional fencing is proposed to enclose the pump station as noted before. The fence is being proposed at a 6-foot height. The fence will also have a gate with a latch for secured access to the pump station. Also to note, that's not part of the application, but just so those are aware, additional upgrades at the station are planned, are a new utility water backflow preventer, some piping and valving and metering. All these improvements will be conducted within the fenced area of the pump station.
Great, thank you. That's all I have for Mr. Nixon. Does the board have any questions?
I'm going to start by asking our planner, Ms. Laney, if she has questions.
Yes. Could you provide some testimony as to why the 4 sides, it has been 3 sides for so long, and why it's now going to be four sides?
Mainly just for security reasons.
And is it, do the other pump stations in Long Hill, are they all 4-sided?
Correct, yes. I believe all others are totally enclosed.
And do you know why, or can you provide some testimony as to why you can't have the 4 feet in the front yard? Foot fence, so that you need the exception.
Again, for a more secured station, the station is very visible to the roadway, to people in the parking lot and the local businesses there. So the 6-foot would provide just additional security that the 4-foot fence would provide.
Okay. And then the one other question, and I'm not sure if you're the correct witness, is in my review letter, had some questions about landscaping, because there is some existing landscaping along Valley Road. And in what was submitted to us, there didn't seem to be any landscaping. I see in this exhibit, there will be. And so I was wondering if you could discuss it, or if that's going to be discussed by another witness.
I can discuss it if is it best shown by the photo, possibly than the site plan. In the photo in the upper left, you can see there's 3 bushes within a bed with blocks. Those are proposed to remain. The fencing should be installed behind it. There are 3 larger bushes to the side of there where the new fencing would be. Those would be taken out and not replaced, just to provide more operational room within the fenced area, because again, it's a very tight pump station, not a lot of space to work within.
So actually, one question I have is what you showed in your site plan. It looked like the landscaping extended a little bit further into that driveway to the east. If you could go back to the site plan for just 1 second. Do you see what I'm, oh, maybe I'm sorry.
By the double swing gate?
No, along Valley Road, it just seemed like you had existing shrubs and plantings to remain, and it looked like there were 6 shrubs.
Oh, I see what, yes. Yeah, maybe that's not represented accurately.
It should be the 3, right?
Yeah, it should be the 3.
Okay. And then I guess the one question, and this is really maybe to the board, if the board's consideration, and I had put it in my letter, is I understand you have the shrubs, but would you consider putting, the trees along the fence along Valley Road just to better shield it from the right of way?
Mike.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry if that was directed at me. I apologize. I guess anything with landscaping is possible. I guess it's outside the county right away, the planter. So we could put larger bushes for screening if that works.
Sorry, can you just say that again? So who maintains it now? Who maintains the plantings now?
I don't know. Maybe Brian from American Water could help me out with that question.
Brian, do you know the answer to who maintains the landscaping in front of the pump station?
I don't know because we just bought the system. So we haven't been in ownership long enough to probably even be concerned with an overgrowth or a dead shrub.
Right.
If it's in our easement, we would be taking care of those shrubs. And I would stipulate to, if we planted new shrubs, I would do a one-year guarantee on new shrubs in front to replace those existing bushes with something a little bit taller just to kind of hide that fence.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Mr. Chairman, those are all my questions for right now.
Yes, Tom Malinowski.
Mike, could you just touch on the double swing gates? Are they for vehicle access or strictly pedestrians going in and out?
It will be mostly for pedestrians, but should they be carrying equipment and stuff in and out of the station, the double gate allows easier access.
From the aerial photograph, do they open into an existing parking space? Existing parking spaces?
Correct. Yeah, there's 2 spaces on that side.
Now, would that be a problem if somebody was parked there and you had to get in? Or if you were working in there, would that take away parking?
It would cause a conflict if the car was parked there. The parking spaces kind of surround all sides of or at least the east side and the north side.
Yeah.
On the west side, it's the exit out of the parking lot. So, yes, it would be in conflict with if a parked car was there. Hopefully, the way we position it would be between the 2 spots. Maybe you could swing one side of the gate open to enter.
Okay, but you wouldn't have to have like a boom truck driving in there for any equipment deliveries or any maintenance, dropping things into the lift station?
Only if there's a substantial issue within the wet well, like a blockage or a backup, that they would bring in a vac truck. But that vac truck has a reach to it. So it could probably work around the car if needed.
All right, so in your opinion, that's the best place for the swing gate. It wouldn't be better to have it in the exit lane over on the west side, or is that?
I think just not to cause an issue with exit traffic out of the parking lot, or the gate swinging open should a car be coming down. And then any parking the truck on that side, blocking any visual for people turning onto Valley Road too.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other members of the board with questions?
On you go, David.
You go first, Brendan. It's fine.
Okay, I just had a quick question on it's such a visible area, and we have a chain link fence with privacy screening, but they tend not to look very good in general, and over time they certainly fade. So is there been any consideration given to putting up some other type of fence that would be more kind of aesthetically pleasing?
It can be considered. I would have to discuss it with American Water,
Okay,
and then
thanks.
whatever. Yeah.
The biggest issue with any other type of fence is that usually they're scalable or climbable. Whereas the 6-foot fence with the small diameter mesh and the privacy slats provides us the most security in our experience anyway.
Alan, can you hold until David gets his question in? He has his hand up.
Okay.
Just a one quick follow-up, Dennis, sorry. Has there been an issue around security either here or in other areas where people have been scaling fences and damaging the pump stations or other property?
It's more of a Water and Wastewater Security Act.
Okay. All right, thanks.
David?
Thanks, Dennis. Just a couple of points. Just looking at Google Map, just looking online, there are 6 bushes in front, so that your schema looks correct to me. In terms of the bushes, yeah, it'd be good to figure out who's doing it and stuff, and who actually owns that piece of property. But minor suggestion is there's 6 fairly big shrubs that you're going to displace or remove. Maybe you could consider whoever owns or is maintaining the piece in front, that you perhaps see if you can relocate those to in front of the along the road, Valley Road, because they look like pretty decent sized shrubs if you're concerned about aesthetics. So that's my only 2 points. The diagram looks good, the plan looks fine. There are 6 shrubs in front, and it looks like there's 6 shrubs to the side. And if you want to relocate them, consider that. But obviously,
if we have to relocate the trees, the applicant is willing to do that. The one thing I would just point out is, we'll work with the board engineer, is just to make sure that the height is not blocking any of the cars that need to make a turn onto the road there.
that's fine. It's just a suggestion. But
Sure.
if they're not be placed there, it'd be nice to place them somewhere else anyhow. But hopefully you can find use of the trees elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, your question?
Yes. 6 foot high, following up what Brendan had raised. 6 foot high chain link with black plastic privacy slats. Not something that should be, in my opinion, should be fronting Valley Road as people come west. It's one of the first things you see in the town. It would be much better, in my opinion, if you want the chain link fence, which I have no concern about. I don't have any concern about the 6 feet. How about putting the wood slats over the chain link? So it looks more like the picture in the top left rather than that awful looking thing in the bottom right. You could accomplish your security issues and still make it look decent. End of comment.
Brian, I mean, that's something that we can consider.
Yeah, I'm
My vote.
consider how we would attach it, and just our experiences that
I could think about 12 ways.
the wooden slat is just a less secure.
No. I'd put it on top of the fence, on top of the chain link fence. Cover the chain link fence with the wooden slats. Make it look nice, like it does now. Make it match what is at the restaurant facade, as opposed to something that looks totally out of place in Long Hill.
I'm only hesitating because I think I have to get an answer from my security team if they think that that's an issue or not. Is it something that could only be in the front, along the front section?
No, on the sides too. I don't care about the back, but the sides, because you see it both ways coming down Valley.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a security member that I can ask that would say no or yes.
And you suggesting on the gate as well, or just on these three sides?
Oh, no, on the three sides. No, I think the side facing valley is fine with all that planting. But that picture on the bottom right does not look like anything else along Valley Road in Long Hill Township. And we already have a problem with the way the Valley Road looks. This would make it worse.
But just to clarify, if you don't mind, are you suggesting on the gate where it opens up that's on the east side, you're suggesting wooden fence on the gate as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just to cover the gate, just to cover the chain link fence with something that's appropriate to the area. And obviously appropriate to the area is the facade of the restaurant.
I mean, we will have the front landscaped as much as we can, to the extent we can allow. That should help with the aesthetics of the fence.
Mr. Chair, may
Go ahead, John.
I? First, I need Mr. Slaughter to really identify himself, who he is with American Water. If we can get that right now.
Sure. My name is Brian Slota. I am a senior project engineer with New Jersey American Water. I am the project manager. I work for the project as part of the design and construction team. I've been with the water company for 6 years, and I was a consulting engineer for 24 years before that.
All right, so right now the board's identified two issues, the fence and the landscaping, neither of which have been given a solid answer. Will you stipulate, and I don't want to put this on you, Liz, if you agree to this or not, to work with both the board planner and the board engineer to provide landscaping to the extent that they're reasonably satisfied? And if they working with the planner and the board engineer, if you can identify a more aesthetically pleasing fence that provides adequate security, will you stipulate to that?
That sounds like the easy answer.
All right, Liz, you okay with that?
Yes, I am. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Let's not get ahead of the question period. Let's not jump to conclusions before the questioning is finished.
That would satisfy my question, though, Mr. Chairman.
Any other members of the board have questions? Mr. Jones, did I see your hand? Okay, Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Jones, do you want to go, or is it? Okay. Mr. Slaughter, are there any current plans to expand this particular pump station in the near future that you're aware of?
No.
From its existing footprint?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
I don't think there's any increase in service connections that are planned or available, and I don't see it increasing in size.
Great, thank you.
Okay, let me ask a question or two. Have you looked at the other pump stations in town, like to determine if they are all fenced?
My recollection of when we were looking at purchasing the system, we went to all the pump stations, and all of the pump stations, to my memory, did have a fully enclosed fence around our easements.
Do you have any idea why this station is not fully enclosed? And you are correct, all the other stations are fully enclosed with fences of at least 6 feet. In fact, there's an 8-foot fence that I discovered at Union Avenue.
I don't remember, or not remember, because we just bought the system. I don't know why the township, who was the previous owner, did not fully enclose this site. And maybe it was that the other, somebody else maintained the site. Maybe Chimney Rock Inn actually fenced it and not the town. I really don't know.
Apparently, the town did not have the sense of security for this site that it had for the other sites. And I'm wondering if either of you could speculate, and I'm sure that's all it is, a speculation as to why.
I wouldn't be able to speculate why.
But the fact is that they are all fenced on 4 sides, and they are all at least 6 feet. Would you testify to that?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Do any other board members have questions for the engineer? We have one hand from the public with a question for the engineer. So if you'll please turn on the microphone for CA.
Absolutely. Mr. Rentwitz,
Yes,
remember to state your name and where you're from for the record.
Charles Renowitz, Millington. I guess the question is for New Jersey American Water. Have there been security issues at this site for the last 2 years since you've owned the property? And have there been problems with security with the police records before that?
We did not research that. In the past 2 years, I don't believe we've had any reports of vandalism or improper access. But we're obligated to follow our water and wastewater facility security acts. So we would really like to enclose the site.
Would you be opposed to a 4-foot fence that abuts Valley Road and 6 feet on the 3 other sides?
I don't know what that would do.
It would comply with our ordinances on front yard fences.
I think the entire fence is considered to be in the front yard, not just the front fence.
I'm not sure that's the case. You testified based on the chairman's questioning that all the other 7 pump stations are 6-foot fences. Is that what you agreed to or testified to?
I said to the best of my knowledge, yes. And we have future.
So the answer is yes.
To the best of my knowledge, the answer is yes. I haven't gone and measured every fence at every pump station, so maybe the answer should be, I don't know.
Do the other fences have slats in them?
The pump stations that I remember visiting do not have slats in them.
How many do?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Is there a way we could find out?
I believe there's only one, Brian, that has slats. All the rest are chain link.
Are you suggesting that we don't put the slats in?
No, I'm just questioning. I'm on the town website and I see 3 documents that were with this application, but I could not find the aerial photo or the photos of the 6-foot fence. Where are they in the submission since they're not on the website?
Our aerial photograph is just being used as an exhibit for the purpose of our presentation tonight. And the photographs of the fence were provided on the site plan document.
I guess this is a question for the chairman and the board secretary. Are they in the 3 documents that I can't see, or?
What, the photographs?
And the aerial photo.
The aerial photo, no, the aerial photo was provided tonight as an exhibit.
Okay.
And is marked as on the board's record tonight as an exhibit. The other site plan was which we did mark as an exhibit, but that is on the website. And as the applicant stated, I do believe, let me check the website. I believe those photographs are on that site plan as well.
which, there's 3 documents there. Which one is it on?
It's on the site plans.
Deb, they appear to be different photographs, actually.
Oh, okay. Then the photographs that they were marked tonight as exhibit A3, those are photographs that are new for tonight.
So the public can't see those. Is that correct?
That's correct. The public cannot see them, and they were provided as exhibits tonight.
Would you put those photographs back up, please? Who was managing the photographs before?
It's Joe. And for the record, the photographs are exhibit A3.
I had asked the question, are these photographs new or are they in the application? And apparently, according to Mr. Rendowitz and Ms. Lahaney, they are different. And I'm looking now, and yes, they are different.
That is my mistake, Mr. Chairman. I thought they were the same as we submitted on the site plan.
Okay, would you put them back up, please, for Mr. Rendowitz to look at? Who's managing the photographs among you?
It's Mr. Mancini. I think he's getting to it.
Yes, they are different from the photographs in the site plan.
Now that I'm seeing that, the slatted fences goes for, looks like 30 or 40 feet. Is that just to show me what it looks like, or is that the site?
That is just an example of the material and height of the fence. That is not the actual site.
Looks like Florida. Be nice to be there, right?
No palmettos in Long Hill.
Yeah, just as an aside, I would think that we would like to see these in advance of any public hearing, but that's just my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That fence appears similar to the fence at the Centennial Pump Station, which is not visible from any highway. And so I think Mr. Files' point was this may be the only pump station in town that's visible from a well-traveled highway.
Well, we will certainly take your comments into consideration, and the applicant is willing to work with the board planner and the board engineer to come up with suitable fencing as long as it's secure and serves the purpose that it's intended to.
Mr. Rendowitz, any other questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Siegel, do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, if there's no other questions for Mr. Nixon, we would like to proceed with our planning testimony with Mr. Mancini.
Mr. Mancini, your qualifications to give this testimony, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Joseph Mancini with Tri-State Engineering and Surveying in New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional planner and professional engineer in New Jersey, and I've had the pleasure to testify and been qualified as an expert in the areas of land planning and civil engineering before many planning and zoning boards throughout New Jersey. This is my first opportunity to testify in front of your board. But I have done work in Morris County, Chatham, Washington Township, Florham Park are a few that come to mind in Morris County where we've done some work.
Anyone have any objections to accepting Mr. Mancini as qualified to testify? Okay, so be it. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. So I'm here tonight to testify primarily in the capacity as a professional planner. for two buckets of reasons. One is that public utilities are permitted as a conditional use in this village business zone. And under that conditional use criteria, the board should evaluate this application with the following 4 criteria in your ordinance. Number 1 is the degree and intensity of nuisance characteristics. Again, based on the testimony you heard from Mike and Brian, this is a low intensity facility. It's an unmanned pump station. It generates minimal traffic and other impacts. And those impacts are going to be no different tomorrow with the new fence than they are today. Development is limited to the replacement of that fence and perhaps some landscaping, as we heard tonight, which I think overall will improve the aesthetics of the property. So there's no new impacts in terms of noise, glare, dust, odors, or similar nuisance characteristics. So I think the proposal meets that standard. Number 2 is probable traffic impact. Again, no traffic impacts associated with this. It's an unmanned station that has service personnel visit it periodically for routine maintenance and monitoring. So I believe we meet that standard. 3 is possible ecological impact. Again, I see none proposed with this development. The proposal tonight is really just to replace the fence and do some other underground repairs. So none of those really speak to any ecological impact. And then the last is the character of the surrounding existing and future development. Again, it's within an easement on the Chimney Rock restaurant property. The portion occupied by the applicant is located in that parking lot within the restaurant area. The immediate area surrounding is predominantly commercial in nature. And the limited development that we described tonight would have no additional impact on the present or future development of the properties. So I believe we're consistent with that standard. So I believe we meet to the extent that the board finds it necessary to give us the conditional use approval. We meet the conditions of public utility use for this area.
I don't think anyone is quarreling with the use.
Okay. Very good.
I believe the issue that we're dealing with is the 6-foot fence.
Sure. So regardless of what type of fence we end up with, we do need a variance for the height of the fence. We need a bulk variance to permit the fence to be 6 feet. And I agree with Mr. Slaughter that likely we need that variance regardless of whether or not we reduce the height of the fence along the front. I believe most, if not all, of the easement areas within quote unquote the front yard. So we would evaluate that under the C2 criteria where the purposes of land use law are advanced by the deviation from zoning ordinance, and the benefits of that deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment. And then second, we'll demonstrate that there's no substantial detriment to the public good and no impairment to the intent and purpose of your zone plan and zoning ordinance. As we heard from the other witnesses, the fence height and the other minor improvements to the facility provide significant benefits to the community by providing sewage service to those buildings, and promote several purposes of zoning, which I outlined briefly. Increase safety by making the pump station inaccessible to the surrounding area, reduces the likelihood of injury or criminal trespass, and thereby promotes public health, safety, and general welfare, which is purpose A of the land use law. Maintaining the security of the station and reducing the risk of any failure there promotes purpose B by securing those areas from natural and man-made disasters. And then finally, maintaining the separation between the public utility as an essential service and the other uses on the site promotes a more desirable visual environment through good civic design and arrangement. And I'm confident that our professionals and your professionals will work out an aesthetically pleasing arrangement there. So based on those significant benefits that I mentioned, I believe they would outweigh any minor detriments that might result from the fence height variance specifically. And then again, speaking to that negative criteria that I mentioned, that the height of the security fence, promoting safety and security and assisting in providing this necessary public utility should be considered to promote rather than be a detriment to the public good. the enhanced fencing and security features are not generally required for residential uses in the area. So this is a unique need here for public utility. Obviously, providing sanitary sewer service to those is a benefit to the public. And finally, there's no substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. Again, because the height restriction for fences would remain in place for any other uses in this zone. It's just specific to this use where it makes good sense. So based on those criteria, I believe we meet the positive and negative proof for a C2 variance, and it'd be appropriate for this board to grant the bulk variance with the conditions you've already sort of stipulated. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions about the planning aspects.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Ms. Lahaney, you can question first.
Well, I have to say, Mr. Chairman, I had interpreted this as a design waiver because it's the development design standards and not a variance. And so I guess if Mr. Mancini, the board can grant design waivers, if the applicant can show that it's impractical or it's going to be an undue hardship to comply with the ordinance. So I was wondering if Mr. Mancini could provide some testimony that having a 4-foot fence would be impractical or impact, create an undue hardship to comply with that provision of the ordinance.
Sure. At an abundance of caution, we took the higher standard of proof, which we believe would be a variance. But for the reasons that you heard Mike and Brian discuss, having a 4-foot fence really isn't effective on this site, and in that sense, it would be a hardship. The 6-foot fence also helps from an aesthetic standpoint to hide some of the equipment that's in there. There is electrical equipment, there is a generator. So I think for both security and aesthetics, it's necessary to have a 6-foot fence. Having worked on lots of other New Jersey American water facilities, I could tell you that I have not seen one that does not have a 6 or an 8-foot high chain link fence. So this has been their protocol, and I understand that it's important now as much as ever to have safe, secure facilities where there's water and sewer treatment involved.
Okay, one other question. I think Mr. Slota, mentioned the Wastewater Treatment Act and that may influence some of your concerns about safety or precautions. Can you briefly discuss that?
I'll let Brian chime in on that. He's probably much more familiar with the security aspects of that. I'm only on the periphery of that.
Okay.
I can chime in a little bit on it.
Okay.
I don't design the fences to meet the security acts, but I know the EPA has the Water and Wastewater Resiliency Act, and it's all about security at facility. I can't testify to the details that are in there. I just know that our security team designs our facilities to comply with that act. So I have to leave it at that. I can't exude any more confidence on it than that.
Okay, all right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from board members for the planner? Teresa, turn your mic on.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Teresa. That's kind of piggybacking off what Liz just said. Like, if there's some sort of law that you have to abide by the EPA that's in conflict with this, that might be worth us knowing. I don't know if our board attorney can, like, if there's something you have to abide by the EPA, if that's going to take precedence over our ordinance. So that just might be worth looking into. If there's an actual, like, you're talking about security requirements. I'm not sure if by that you mean security requirements that say it has to be a 6-foot fence. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So we stipulated to the board attorney that we would work with the planner Part of working with the planner would be if our security team tells us that the EPA requires a 6-foot fence, and that's part of what we would do. I know it's our standard practice to do a 6-foot fence, because a 4-foot fence you could almost fall over. Not really.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm not questioning like the reasonableness of having a 6-foot fence. That makes perfect sense. I'm just wondering if the EPA requires that, because that's something that would, I think, influence at least my decision. So, what if you?
I don't know that the EPA requirements that Brian's referencing are that prescriptive, but I think it's a general mandate that water and sewer facilities are sensitive public utilities that need to be protected, and then how that is executed is where Brian's security team comes in and says, this is how we believe we need to secure this facility.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering if there was a specific provision that was like in conflict or something. So it appears not, but if you find out that there is, it might be worth knowing. Thank you.
Any other board members have questions?
Not to beat a dead horse, but again, the fence, as far as the fence is concerned, I'm still, does the security team deem that the chain link fence is a much more secure fence, height 6 feet fine, than when it comes to being able to be scaled versus a smooth wooden slatted fence? Because I think you could probably find ways of getting purchase on that chain link fence. It could get you over, even I could get over it pretty quick, versus another design that might be more aesthetically pleasing, certainly to anyone who's driving down Valley Road. I just don't know the where it could be shown that the chain link fence is the kind of the gold standard when it comes to preventing people from scaling it.
We use the smaller,
Yeah.
so that you can't put your foot in. We don't have a top bar. We have a top wire. So the top, you can't just grab onto the bar and flip over.
Right.
Fence, if it's a wood fence that's securely attached, you can grab onto the top of the wood and flip yourself over easier than if it's a floppy piece of metal.
Right. But I mean, I won't go into it because I'll be giving all kinds of people ideas on how to scale chain link fences. But I can think of a couple of ways that you can actually get the purchase sufficient to get yourself over. But as I say, I won't give anybody ideas. But the thing is that I think what we're saying is that we don't have I don't necessarily have a problem with the 6-foot fence. I don't think anybody does. It's the look, right? And you've heard enough from us that to know to realize that that's a significant problem for us in that location. And so I think we would urge you to change the design of the fence, and there are certainly ways that you could easily overcome the security issues that you've identified with a different style of fence, a different material.
It's a discussion I can have with the security team and then bring it to the board planner.
Thanks.
Anyone else with a question? Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, it's not really a question, Dennis. It's just a follow-up to the position of the gate again. And when I did a quick search on Google Maps, that gate will be opening into one of the, it looks like 2 handicap parking spots. So if there's any way, when you're looking for a different material for a fence, that gate can be moved, I think that would really help, either to the back or to the western side, where if it's limited access and it's just in the exit lane, it might not be a problem. Because I don't know what the clearance is from there, but it looks pretty tight if you're going to try to open a gate with a handicap, a person parked in that handicap spot.
I think, what's the parking, and Joe, if you could bring up the aerial again, is the parking behind it standard parking or handicap parking?
I think there's a handicap spot, but there is a little wedge-shaped piece in there. But I don't know what the equipment is back there. Is it the generator? How high the generator? Will that limit access to a gate?
The issue would be the access to the wet well. And if we go in from the back, the generator is blocking the access to the wet well.
Yeah, that was my first thought. So we have the generator here and then electrical cabinet here. So really this side is, and I don't want to speak for Mike here, it was his design, but this side seems to be the most logical location for a gate. And one of these spaces is handicapped.
That's the one that's handicapped, the one with the vehicle, right?
Correct.
So I think a bigger impact would be a day that anybody trying to leave the facility would be impacted by our travel, as opposed to one parking space.
And I agree with that as well. I think from a safety perspective, it's reasonable that we could ask somebody to move here and have the gate open versus have the gate open here and potentially be in conflict with vehicle movements, whereas this is at least parking spaces that are not going to have people coming in and out.
You know, if we block one space for a day or a half a day or whatever we need to do our work, that I think is better than blocking part of that travel lane out of the facility, out of the parking lot.
Well, then how about on the southern side in the front of the building? That would require some re-landscaping.
The plantings
There's
are?
also a fire hydrant there, I think, correct? It didn't show up in
Yeah.
the survey.
I think there's a hydrant in front. We wouldn't be able to open the gate if we had landscaping there.
Well, you'd have to redo the landscaping then.
Where would we put the landscape?
There's a bit of a slope difference there too, which is why there's that planting bed. It's actually accommodating a bit of a change in slope. So I don't think you'd have to knock out that planting bed in order to put the gate there. And then you might have gates swinging out towards Valley Road, which is not an ideal situation either. I think.
I'd like to cut this short for just a second while I ask Ms. Lahaney a question. Do you see any reason why the property owner could not be asked to move one of the handicap parking spaces to get it out from in front of the gate rather than moving the gate? Seems easier to move the handicap parking sign.
I would agree with you. The one thing, and this is just all from just this aerial, is there seems to be a sort of a pathway between the ADA spaces and the front of the restaurant. So it seems like they did situate the spaces. You know, it's not saying that they couldn't redo the spaces. Yes, they could.
One of the difficulties that the applicant's experts are trying to avoid is the observation that the interior of that little enclosure is pretty much designed around the existing gate. And to move the gate would require moving something somewhere inside the enclosure. So it might be that they'd like to testify that leaving the gate where it is most practical from the point of view of the mechanical arrangements inside the enclosure, and moving the handicap space might be a little bit easier.
Well, just a question of can the gate be just situated in the one spot that's closest to Valley Road is not an ADA space. I don't know if the gate can be confined to that space. I don't know.
There's where the red car is, that's not handicapped. I mean, if you had to, just move the one to the other. I was spending too much time on this. The red car is not on a handicapped spot. If you want to move that one over.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's fine.
We'll just expand it.
It would actually be closer to the ramp if you moved the handicap space over.
To that area, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's worth an investigation.
Did you have any other questioning, Mr. Malinowski?
No, I don't.
I have a question. Given the fact that, and this is for the planner, given the fact that all the other pump stations, the other 7 pump stations in town all have 6 to 8 foot fences, all of which presumably violate the 4-foot rule that's in our ordinance. Can you opine as to how those stations got their tall fences? Or was that a part of any discussion prior to the sale?
I cannot opine on that, Mr. Chairman, except to say that it doesn't surprise me because it's a common practice for a public utility to have a 6-foot fence for security purposes. So whether they obtained that through grandfathering or through a variance application or illegally, I don't know. But it doesn't surprise me, but I can't really opine as to how that came to be.
Well, the prior owner of this station and of the entire wastewater system was the township. Does that make a difference?
Perhaps it did.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I believe it would actually make a difference if it was the township.
Go ahead.
Typically, a municipality is not subject to variances or necessarily the same zoning requirements that a utility or a member of the public would be subject to.
Ms. Siegel, do you agree with that?
Yes, that is correct.
So therefore, if the township, as previous owner of the wastewater system, decided to build fences at all the other pump stations, that was theirs to do without asking for a variance.
Correct.
Someone agree with me?
Yes, that is correct.
Wonder why they missed this one.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
Mr. Richardson.
Yes, I just wanted to note that I'm hearing that there are 2 issues that I believe the applicant is stipulating to, as far as to look at the aesthetics of the fence and to also look at what Mr. Malinowski has brought up in regards to the access into the structure with the gating. I would just want to also just check the hours of operation of Chimney Rock to try to schedule visits to this for servicing of this to minimize the impacts to parking, if at all possible. But I would encourage the applicant to come back to the board with some of the improvements that I think they're hearing this evening before we can vote.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the planner before we turn this back over to Ms. Siegel? You intend to have Mr. Slow to testify?
I don't believe Mr. Slota has anything else to add. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is about the extent of our testimony.
Okay, before we leave, do any members of the public have questions for the planner? I see no hands. Well, since Mr. Slota has been sworn, I have a question for him. If that's okay with you, Counselor.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to stand now. I just moved from the courtroom to the fence. And this is the way the fence looked for several months up until a few weeks ago. Do you intend to use the fence for advertising purposes?
I would say we would not allow the Chimney Rock Inn to utilize the fence for advertising space anymore.
Do you have a guarantee of that?
I do not.
Can you make sure that the easement arrangement includes the happy hour banner or lack thereof?
I would say that we would have to have a discussion with the Chimney Rock Inn. I'm surprised the town allowed them to use it. I would say that we would not allow it to be used.
Ms. Coons is shaking her head. Why are you shaking your head?
Because they're not supposed to have it on there. They were told to take it down.
Answer.
In other words, they had no permission to put up that banner, which
Correct.
violates at least 4 sections of our banner ordinance.
Exactly.
Okay, I think
there's
that
something in
needs to
direct
be
violation-
clarified.
If there's something that's in violation of an ordinance, we certainly would not allow them to continue to use the fence in that way.
As long as Mr. Sloat is online, anyone have any other questions for him as a representative of the company? All right then, Ms. Siegel, do you want to wrap up?
Sure. Just in sum, as you heard from our 2 experts and Mr. Slota, this application is for very minor improvements that only go to benefit the safety and security of the site that provides a public benefit to the town. We are willing to work with the board engineer and planner to provide sufficient landscaping and as well as to explore additional fencing designs as long as it serves the purpose that the fence is intended to.
Would you prefer a vote on this tonight, or would you like an adjournment and come back with some answers?
I believe we would like to vote on it tonight. Brian, do you want to weigh in on this?
I think that we've stipulated that we are very willing to work with the town to meet their needs. And I don't think that our requirements are very steep to come to an agreement on something that is workable with the town. Usually, I didn't get a chance to testify to the working hours. I don't think the Chimney Rock Inn is open for breakfast. Most of our activities usually happen or can be scheduled before noon. I can minimize any impact to parking. But I certainly don't think that a second meeting would be required to hash out the issues that we have with putting the fence 2 foot higher and enclosing for security purposes. I think we should be able to have a vote tonight.
We would like to vote tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right. At this point, I will entertain discussion by members of the board. And who'd like to start? Mr. Malinowski, would you like to start?
I've kind of stated how I feel about it. I mean, if I'm told that that is the best place for the gate and that's the only place it can go, I think with the working hours, they're done in the morning, it wouldn't be a problem. Aesthetically, I would like to see something better than a black screen that's there. What's there now, the wooden fence, is much more appealing to the eye. And as far as differences in the security fence, I don't see much of a difference between a scalable chain link fence and the fence that's there now, like a wooden type fence, even if it was picketed on the top or something to make it tougher to get over. But if we're going to vote on tonight, I'm ready to vote.
Mr. File?
Again, I don't feel that a chain link fence with black, security slats is acceptable along Valley Road. if we can get around that to include wood over the fence and the slats, I'm all for it. Otherwise, I'm totally against it. I'll need that assurance from our professionals that that's a requirement.
Mr. Hands?
Yeah, I'm sort of on the fence about the fence, about how we address it tonight or wait to see what, because that's a big difference, right? The chain link, if you say no to chain link, then that's fundamentally the main issue tonight, right? The plantings, yeah, I'd like to see the plantings done, moved, maybe reuse the plants that are there, maybe move the handicap parking spot. I'm not sure how we get over the design then without coming back to the board, because I don't know, because it's so fundamental. How do we make that condition if American Water say that they can't do it and it's not part of their plans? So I don't know. I don't know if we can leave that onus on the board professionals either.
Committeeman Wright.
Responsible for the way the town looks.
Yeah.
Professionals.
That's right. That's right. So I'm on the fence about the fence.
Committeeman Wright.
I'm in agreement with Dawn and David, I think, although he might be on the fence on this one, but I think what's been proposed and what we'd like to see are very different. And I think, it really behooves the water company to come back to us with something that they think would meet our needs and for us to agree to it. I certainly would like to see it.
Mr. Valeza?
I'm in agreement with Committeeman Wright. Sorry, I have a really bad connection.
Your sound is terrible, Victor, but I think you said you agreed. Mr. Jones?
I agree. It's the cosmetics of the fence. If we could put some planters or some arborvitaes out in front of that, like it is on the west side of the pump, that would help hide the fence. So my issue is the fence and the look of the fence. Thank you.
Mr. Richardson?
I have nothing to add to what's been said and what I stated previously in regards to the aesthetics. I have no issue with the height request.
Ms. Dill?
I agree. I think if you're saying you have to go back and talk to your security team about whether a wood fence would even work, I mean, we hate to have you come back, but you're not telling us whether your security team is signing off on that. So it sounds like, that's my opinion, is that it sounds like you're gonna have to come back because you don't have approval for a wood or an alternative as of right now. So that's what I think.
Continue.
Did I miss anybody except myself? I think that we have a majority of the board who would like to see plans which are much more in line with the comments you've heard tonight. And I personally have to go along with that. I'd like to see you come back. Ms. Siegel, having heard all this, you can ask us to vote or you can give us an extension.
And interrupt real quick, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Ms. Siegel, should the board decide to carry this matter, is your client willing to sign a extension of time to act?
Yes, we would be willing to sign the extension. If possible, can I just take 1 minute to confer with the client and making our decision?
Actually, it's now just about 9 o'clock. Let's take a 5-minute break. Be back at 9:05.
Sure.
Come on back, everybody.
Ted, if we could do a roll call once everybody's back.
Sure.
Thanks.
Gonna wait until I see Tom Malinowski on, then I'll start the recording again.
Mr. Malinowski, Mr. Verliza.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take a roll call since we've returned from the recess at 9:06. Committeeman Ray,
Present.
Committeeman Verleza,
Present.
Ms. Dill,
Present.
Mr. Hands,
Yeah.
Mr. Jones,
Present.
Mr. Malinowski,
Here.
Mr. File,
Here.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Here.
Chairman Sandow.
Here,
Great, all here.
Ms. Siegel.
Thank you. The applicant would wish to request a continuance in order to come back with a revised design for the fence. However, just for clarification purposes, if we could ask the board members what they would prefer to see, if board on board is acceptable under the requirements that New Jersey American Water is required to follow, is that acceptable for the board? Just so we do not have to keep coming back meeting after meeting. We take your concerns into consideration and we want to come back and get it right.
Can you just repeat that regulation? You said board on board, just to find, and where did that come up?
So-
all of a sudden?
So the board on board is basically the fence that exists presently. The wooden fence, is that something that the planning board would prefer to see in lieu of the chain link fence?
But sorry, not
Mr.
to clarify,
File.
you said something else about it. You said something that this is a
Yes.
How's second, because
prefer
I
that.
don't understand why that wasn't brought up.
I'm sorry, your internet broke up. I didn't get your question.
You said something else after you said board on board. You said it was almost like that as a permitted approach by whichever.
I think I mentioned the requirements that Mr. Slota and New Jersey American Water need to follow in order to follow their safety guidelines.
So that was something that's acceptable all along. Fair statement, right?
I'm saying I don't know what is acceptable under the requirements and the safety guidelines. However, we would like to determine what the planning board would like to see in terms of materials. And if that is acceptable under the requirements, then that's something that we will come back with in our next month's presentation.
Fine by me.
Mr. File.
Fine.
You wanted to talk about board over chain link.
6 feet is fine. Some kind of board to cover the chain link is fine. Ideally, it would match the color that is and the size that's there now, but that's up to you guys. I just don't want to see chain link fence with black plastic on Valley Road. That's all. Thank you.
Understood.
Does anyone disagree with Mr. File's observation? Okay, and you want to check with the owner of the property about relocating the handicap parking
Mr. Chairman,
versus moving the gate.
if we could we would request to avoid moving the handicap spaces. It looks like the pathway is directly from the space to the ramp. We will work with the gate and the location that is proposed in the non-ADA space, if that's acceptable to the board.
Either way.
I don't think it's an issue given the hours of operation of the restaurant versus what they say their maintenance normally takes place. I don't think it's an issue at all.
Okay, we'll leave it to you guys to work out a proposal. I think that anything that avoids the conflict between the gate and the handicap would be acceptable.
Okay, and finally, the applicant would just request that we do not have to renotice for next month's planning board meeting. I'm not sure if you have the date, so we can say on the record officially when that meeting will be.
You have that date, Ms. Coons?
Yes, February 8th.
So,
We
yeah.
have a meeting in January too, don't we?
Well, January 25th right now, that's only 2 weeks away. So
Okay.
then right now we're scheduled for the elite application, and
Okay.
they are planning to come back.
Okay.
So if the board wants, if Ms. Siegel thinks that her client can get everything done in 2 weeks, and the board is okay with putting them on prior to going back to the elite application, that's up to everybody.
Never mind. Leave it the way it is.
Okay.
So, Ms. Siegel, if the board wants to grant you a continuance, it would be February 8th. At this time, we're still going to be Zoom unless given further notice. So it'd be 7:30, February 8th. Same Zoom, same time. No further notice is required. Should the board
Thank
grant your continuance.
Right. We just need a motion and a second, and all in favor.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Okay,
Motion
thank
carries.
you. Appreciate all the time you spend on this, and hope to see you again for 10 minutes in February.
I hope so. Thank you very much for your time.
The remainder of this meeting is the reorganization stuff. And I'd hope to get through it without too much trouble. So let us go back to the agenda at item number 11. You've all seen the meeting schedule for this year. Does anybody have any comments on that? I didn't see any conflict with holidays, but maybe one of you has. The remote meeting protocols. Any questions about that resolution, which is surprisingly wordy? Where did we get that from, Deborah?
Yolanta.
No wonder it's surprisingly wordy, but it's not surprising. Notice of publication in the newspapers, no issues there. Resolutions for applications. I have to tell you that one stumped me because that says that we're going to publish the final resolutions on the website, and I didn't know where to look. But I was corrected by our board secretary. You can find all the resolutions for the past 2 years on the planning board page of the website. And we apparently need a resolution in order to continue doing that. Meeting cutoff at 10:30, that has worked well for us. Robert's Rules of Order more or less works for us. Any comments there? Can I have a motion, please, to adopt resolutions 11 through?
Well, technically, it's resolution 6 through 11, but what you're talking about, Mr. Chairman, is agenda items 11 through 16.
Oh, I'm sorry. Agenda items 11 through 16 and whatever the resolution numbers are, 6 through 11.
Correct.
So moved.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Sorry, I had lost my roll call for a second there. All right, Committeeman Ray was the motion. Who was the second?
I did.
Mr. Hands. Okay. Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Hands,
Yes.
Committeeman Releza,
Yes.
Ms. Dill,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Malinowski,
Yes.
Mr. File,
Yes.
this Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
and Chairman Sando.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the meeting minutes. You all got those yesterday. I assume you have read them. And I just lost them.
I did too.
The first one is September 14. Any questions or comments on the minutes of September 14? The last time we did this, council advised that we have to move and pass these one at a time. So on September 14, Ray and File were absent or excused. So let's have a roll call for let's have a motion to adopt the minutes of September 14th.
So moved.
Second.
We can do all in favor on minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next is October 26. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Mr. File and Mr. Verliza were excused. I have a motion to adopt the minutes of October 26.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have the public session on November 9th. That was a joint meeting with the zoning board for the purpose of going into executive session and conducting interviews. So the meeting itself was almost trivial. Comments, questions, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. File, Mr. Malinowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then we have the executive session on November 9th.
Move to approve.
Second. Mr. Malinowski, all in favor?
Aye.
Then we have the minutes of the meeting on November the 23rd. Any questions or comments on that? Under new business, the second paragraph under new business, the board discussed extending the redevelopment zone, and that was going to go back to the township committee. Just remind me later on when we talk about committees to find out what they said. a motion to adopt the minutes of November 23rd.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finally, we have the minutes of the meeting on December 14.
I found an error for December 14th.
Well, please speak up.
And number 10, old and new business for discussion. The second item where we were discussing 2022 meetings to be via Zoom or in person in the courtroom. I had taken my notes, but I didn't format a sentence. I didn't finish formatting a sentence there. So I just have to amend that. Just
It is
basically to read.
curious that I found exactly the same question and I don't understand the word do.
You don't understand the word.
Secretary
Do
Coontz noted do block of time.
Yes, yeah, that's because that was just my shorthand basically to when I was listening, and I have to go back and format an actual sentence there.
Do you want to give us that sentence now, or do you want to bring these minutes
I
back
can do
later?
that. During discussion, Chairman Sandow noted there will be a new resolution for the reorganizational meeting, period. The board will pass a resolution, and that allows us to basically cancel at any time if the mask mandate is lifted, period. The board will also review Zoom meetings or going back in person on a quarterly basis until further notice.
Can I have a motion to adopt these minutes as amended by the board secretary?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you all.
If I did not vote on that one, I wasn't there. Okay.
Now, let me dismiss all these minutes. And go back to my agenda. I hope I didn't address that, dismiss that. I'm afraid I clicked too many times. I lost the agenda. What's next, Deborah?
The agenda is the board secretary report.
Oh, well, by all means.
So I sent everybody the updated application status that I provide. So does anybody have any questions? Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, basically at this point, the planning board is waiting to hear 2 applications, one for a Greek restaurant at the, I can't pull it up fast enough, my computer's slow. The
Mike's Music.
Yes, Mike's Music, thank you. On Valley Road. And then Mr. Verleza has submitted a subdivision application. So we're hoping to get those going by February. I want to try to, February 8th, I'll work with our professionals to see if we can get the minor site plan for the the Greek restaurant on also for February 8th. And then we need to save February 22nd for Elite, assuming that they're going to come back. If hopefully they're ready on the 25th. Our board professionals also have to let us know if they feel they are ready to begin testimony again, or if there are any red flags with the plans, that would potentially they should potentially work through prior to coming back to the board. But as of right now, Elite would have January, what did I just say? January, lost my calendar, 25th, right? And then February 22nd, which would push the subdivision for Mr. Verleza to begin on March 8th. That would be the goal, right?
Do you have the Elite application in hand?
Yes, we do.
How soon can we get that out?
That's up to our professionals. Not sure. Oh, out to the board?
Yeah.
I can email that out tomorrow. I have all the electronic files.
We've been waiting for it for so long. I can't hold my breath any longer.
I'd be happy to email it out to everybody tomorrow.
Thank
Is this
you.
the new application or revision?
No, it's not a new application. They just amended their plans based on, Samantha may be able to. Oh, no, actually Samantha's not even working on this application. I apologize, Samantha. I think Liz, I think they DEP did some changes. Do you know?
Yeah, I just, to be honest, I just got it this afternoon. I haven't reviewed it.
Never mind.
I'm not sure.
So I believe it was based on DEP changes that they were waiting for.
Okay.
So Samantha, I'm sorry, I'll do that frequently when I'm going to say, oh, Elite, you're going to say I'm not on Elite.
Not a problem. I got my own notes on the spreadsheet.
Good. So go ahead, David, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. If Elite is carrying on the same application, I missed their last meeting. So I need to probably have an affidavit or something to sign at some point.
Okay. Absolutely.
When was the last time we heard Elite? June?
Yeah, I think so. I have to go back. It's been,
Whenever
I
I did my second vaccination.
yeah, I will review any testimony last year that they did. I will also confirm if there were any other members of the board other than Mr. Hands that had missed any meetings. I will make sure to get those members of the board the piece of paper to sign and let them know which meetings they have to watch in order to confirm that they can continue voting on it. So
good.
And
So
the Parisi Parisi is extended until June.
I mean, as of right now, they basically asked for 4 to 6 months. So if they come in sooner, we can, we'll have our professionals review the revisions and try to accommodate them sooner. But as of right now, we're looking at about 4 to 6 months for them to come back.
Thank you.
Now, Samantha, I know, can speak to that one because I think that was
Yes,
also
absolutely.
a DEP issue. Yes.
Yeah, that's going to take them a little while to get through some of it and basically decide how they want to proceed in light of the DEP permitting that will be required, and if that's going to mean changing the orientation of the subdivision, the number of lots and things like that. So they have some pretty large decisions I think they have to make before they can get those plans moving along and then back to us for another round of review.
Anyone have any questions about the schedule for Ms. Coons? Then let us move on to the next agenda item, which is committees. Most importantly, we have the master plan committee, and we have some members of the board who are anxious to get started on that, and any one of them is welcome to take the floor now and tell us what's happening.
Now, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask for a clarification tonight, are we simply discussing these individually, or are we going to be, as this is a reorg meeting, are we going to be assigning individuals to these committees tonight?
Yes, to both.
Okay, thank you.
I am volunteering for the master plan committee.
As am I. I think we have 4 that have stepped up to volunteer. Tom, David, myself, and Al.
Do you want to tell us what the plan is, Mr. Richardson?
I think just broad strokes. I mean, the plan would be to work this year to come back to the board with a plan, so to speak, for the master plan. And I think from the discussion amongst us 4, our feeling is we want to tackle this a little bit different, take a little bit different tact with more of a macro approach, looking at identifying some of these key areas associated with the land use element, come back to the board on defined scheduled basis with some of the goals and objectives around some of these more macro issues before we get into the micro, and work off of a lot of the work that's already been done. Let's capitalize on what's been done, but really focus in getting both this board's consent as well as making sure at an even higher level, the township committee is aware and is kept abreast as to what the status is as we go through this process. My understanding is next year is the deadline.
We have a planner on board, and I'd like to hear from her how she will contribute to this process.
I would work with the committee to the extent that they need it and the extent that they have any questions or input that I can provide. I'd be happy to do it and happy to talk to them offline and assist in any way I can.
You will be on our speed dial.
I look forward to it. Yeah, thank you.
Will we be naming a chairperson for this committee?
I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Richardson to chair the committee. If that's
So,
okay with you.
so committee members are Vice Chairman Richardson, Mr. File, Mr. Malinowski, and Mr. Hams, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
No, I'm not going to ask the question starting with a when. Will we be able to see your schedule
We will.
at the February meeting?
Yes.
And this will be through the end of 2023. And can I assume that you're going to start with land use?
That is the goal. That is the most important element, as we've all discussed and identified.
Now, the housing element is quite verbose right now and is wrong because one of the housing commitments has dropped away. Do you have specific plans to rewrite housing, or do you want to ask Liz to do that?
Without speaking to the board, David, if you want to chime in, but I've really not connected. We need to connect with the committee to lay out the schedule and identify the priorities, Mr. Chairman.
As I recall, the housing element was pretty much a solo effort by our previous planner.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason I asked the question. David?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways to go about what to do with that. So maybe we should just speak to Liz about that in a bit more detail. Or you can even modify minor without having the big rewrite, just for those modifications or updates. So
Amendments, so to speak. Yep.
Yeah.
I think the answer to that question, Mr. Chairman, it's premature to give you an answer. We have to look at it.
All right. Does anyone else on that committee want to offer up an opinion at this point? I will remind you all that one thing that is missing from most of the current master plan is uses. We have uses for Valley, and we have some uses for Myersville, but most of the other areas and zones don't have a list of uses in the master plan. The uses are developed in the ordinance. And during our work on application improvement during 2019, our attorney told us that uses should be in the master plan. They should not be invented as a part of the ordinance writing. And so I leave that as a question for you guys to discuss and figure out how or if you want to get uses for all the zones into the master plan. I realize it adds verbiage that we don't now have, but at least it would clarify ordinance writing. The other issue having to do with uses is the ordinance has a long list of prohibited uses, none of which are listed in the master plan as being prohibited uses. And I would like to have the master plan clarify if there are specifically prohibited uses, if so, why, and or make a recommendation on how to dispose of the prohibited uses currently listed in the ordinances. That will go a long way toward making the ordinance writing a little bit easier. Any discussion on that?
Other than we agree that we did some work before uses, so there's some work we can pick up from. Understood.
Particularly, I'd like to take out piggeries and mink farms.
Indeed, indeed.
Although, as a historical note, there was a mink farm, and it was at the location of the Dunkin' Donuts, for those of you who care. The Site Plan Review Committee. We had a Site Plan Review Committee meeting with Parisi during the summer. Unfortunately, I asked other member or members, I forget which, to join me at that, and they didn't. Suffice to say, it has been very useful. And I would like to continue the notion of a site plan review committee. And I would further like it to be on an ad hoc basis so that everybody on the board gets a chance to participate in one or more of these as the year progresses. And so I will be asking any comments. Reapplication review. We had one last year for a subdivision on West Dogwood. And a number of you did participate in that. Same thing. I would like to continue to make it available, and we will appoint the committee members on an ad hoc basis so everybody gets a chance. The Ordinance Review Committee. There are several ordinances that we currently need to deal with. I'm going to list them here. I think that probably our previous, well, as a matter of fact, this is called the Ordinance Review Committee, but since 2017, we really haven't reviewed any ordinances. We've been writing them. The Ordinance Review Committee was originally intended to review ordinances that came from elsewhere, but we haven't had any ordinances coming from elsewhere. The Ordinance Review Committee has been writing ordinances. So the most recent one was the well, there was process improvement, and then there was a cleanup ordinance early last year, and things like handicap parking. We've got a few more in the mill, and I'm going to categorize, I'm going to just mention them and see if anybody wants to rise to the occasion of volunteering to work on them. One of them is an ordinance that the Township Committee introduced late last year and then did not adopt, and that has to do with obstructions in the right-of-way. specifically fences that are too close to the curb that the snowplows can knock over. I asked the township committee to hold off on that because of a conflict with the authority of the board to regulate fencing, rocks, and front yard setback. There are some confusing issues here because front yard setback, and which is a minimum, minimum front yard is different from setback. One is measured from the lot line, one is measured from the street line. The street line isn't well defined. The question of curb comes into this because the township ordinance that was suspended late last year, the township ordinance was based on curb. And curb is something that doesn't appear in any of our metrics, which are based on property lines. So the whole thing has to be resolved. Minimum front yard, setback, curb, lot line, street line, center line, all have to be reconciled within the zoning ordinance and as far as the township is concerned with regard to the obstructions issue. We've got to deal with site triangles. We've got to deal with the extent of the jurisdiction of the board. And we've got to also leave room for the chief of police to order a fence down because it's an obstruction, even though it might be grandfathered under the zoning ordinance. All that has to be shaken around and done fairly quickly. Who'd like to participate in that? Other than our attorney.
After such an enticing description, I can't imagine anybody wouldn't want to get involved in that.
Mr. Jones has his hand up. And since I raised the comment with the township committee at their meeting in December, I'll take that on, as will Ms. Lahaney and one of our attorneys. And you guys can decide which one.
Absolutely.
The next issue that is troubling to me is COVID. We have at least one establishment in town that has on their own opened up a COVID pickup window for food orders. At this point, restaurants do not have authority for windows, with the exception of one restaurant that has a specific variance for it. It occurs to me that with pickup food delivery becoming more prevalent, that we ought to open up a little bit on pickup windows. And that leads to the problem that our ordinance does not distinguish between a drive-through window and a pickup window. For example, banks are allowed drive-up windows, or drive-through windows, where you pull up, talk to a teller, exchange money through a drawer, and take a little bit of time doing it. But that notion of the full service drive-through also applies to ATMs, which are not a dialogue intensive transaction. And it also applies to pharmacy pickup windows, which are unlike real drive-through windows because there is no intercom, there is no menu board, there is no canopy overhead. Think about the pickup window at Walgreens which is on the back side with no protection, no canopy. You just drive up and they hand you your prescription, which was pre-ordered. Compare that against the typical drive-through at a bank. So I believe we need to rethink and redefine the difference between a full-service drive-through window and a pickup window, so that we can apply the pickup window logic to restaurants that only want to hand a bag of food through the window that was pre-ordered. And that would open the town up to having restaurants open pickup windows without having to go to the board, because it would be in a permitted, probably supplemental use of some sort, and give us a ministerial authority for that. That happens to involve a great deal of work in the ordinances, because pickup windows, drive-through windows, drive-up windows, and there's even another phrase, and that's called a takeout window, which is probably similar to a pickup window, but I'm not sure. That needs to be cleared up. Who'd like to participate in that one? Mr. Jones again.
Dennis, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead, David. I have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Don. I wonder, could we expand the whole idea? Because, you know, obviously outdoor dining has taken on a different relevancy over the last couple of years. I'm not sure where we stand with that, whether that's a temporary situation or is that something we look at?
Outdoor dining was clarified in process improvement back in 2018. Any restaurateur can come in with a site plan and get it approved by the zoning official. All he needs is a drawing, a sketch of what he wants to do. There is no reason for the board to deal with that at this time, unless you want to change it. Alan?
Yeah, that's my point. I think we should look at it and just check out what the parking requirements are, because folks may have either they're using some of the parking spaces for outside dining, or they're expanding their seating because of outside dining. And what's the consequence?
You're one step ahead of me. We'll talk about parking lots next. Alan?
Before we go crazy and make a mountain out of what I perceive to be a molehill, I'd like to hear from what the township attorney would have to say about this. I view this whole thing as temporary and transient. I don't think we need to go crazy with spending, you know, a huge amount of time looking at drive-through, drive-up, takeout, all this other stuff. If this whole thing is transient, I think it's a waste of time. I'd like to hear what Jack has to say about it. Maybe other towns have taken a more, you know, immediate approach.
Yeah, and the point I wanted to interject with, Mr. Chairman, is I'm losing, and also just because we're in the organizational component of this, I'm losing track as to what committee now we're talking about. Is this all going to be under ordinance review? And you're just identifying specific priorities under ordinance review? How is this being organized?
We have found in the past few years, except for last year, we have found that the ordinance review committee tends to get bogged down to the point where members don't show up. When we started doing process improvement, or I'm sorry, application improvement, it was down to just Yolanta and me for most of the meetings that we had at the end of 2019. Simply because it involves a lot of dirty, roll up your sleeves, paw through the ordinance, and make things right. And that process needs to be restarted. It has been dormant for 2 years. The application improvement process. We still need a much improved checklist for the applications because so much of
all this detail, Mr. Chairman, doesn't have to be discussed now. All we have to do is
I guess that's
decide
my
who wants
point.
to be part of a committee.
Yeah, let's get the committees assembled and have
Get the committee
committee.
assignments and then delegate that down. Don't do it now.
Again, what I am
It's endless.
what I am asking for, Alan, is for all the members of the board to get involved in some way, shape, or form with a piece of this, rather than having one committee of 3 members work through one item after another. We should be able to work a number of these items in parallel and expose more people to it. And
So Dennis, I'd like to volunteer for some of the ordinances, but I'm not sure because we're taking a bit of time to go through. We've gone through only 2 so far. So at least for me, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but would you mind telling us what they are? Because I'd like to volunteer for some of them, but it might help me if I know what they are.
Another one that David brought up was parking. We adopted outdoor dining and made it very easy for restaurants to adopt outdoor dining. All they have to do is bring in a site plan and show it to the zoning officer. But we never addressed parking because outdoor dining presumably adds parking requirement, which we didn't address. On the other hand, banks have very large parking requirements. And if you look at bank parking lots today, no one's banking at the teller line anymore. Half the banks in town have either closed or closed their teller line. And so we've got a lot of parking spaces available at banks, and that has to be rethought. There may be other situations where the parking requirement is unreasonable, and that has to be investigated. That's a third issue that I'd like to put near the front burner. Again, these are all initiatives, ordinance initiatives, rather than ordinance review.
Okay. So maybe this is really sounding like more of just a more global ordinance committee with a number of priorities.
That, in fact, is the way it's listed on the agenda, ordinance committee.
Okay, well, I'm happy to help with, some or all of those ordinances. I just thought it would be more helpful if we knew, because you were going through specific issues and getting into discussion of them versus, so I just wanted to know what it was before volunteering. But so if it's just a general ordinance review, and it sounds like Tom has volunteered for some of them too, I'm happy to help.
Well, I'd like the members to volunteer to work on specific issues or any other ordinance issue that you may have heard come up during the past year or so that you think ought to be corrected.
That's enough.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if we're like I don't think we have time to open it up for discussion now, so I don't know if you could put me down for any of the ones that need filling. I don't think I would have time to do all of them, but I'm happy to help on some of them because.
How about I put you down for parking?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fairly straightforward.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other? The zoning board sent us their annual report a year ago, and it's got a number of items. I'm sorry to say I haven't read them, but some of those are ripe for discussion. Others of those will have to go to the master plan because the complaints of the zoning board about the ordinances follow the old master plan. So if we're going to fix the ordinance, we have to fix the master plan first. And I will pass that list on to the master plan committee. So you can pick out the stuff that needs master plan input before we can fix ordinances. It's a little bit more complicated than you'd like to think.
That's the problem.
Okay.
SOP committee. The last time the SOP committee brought anything to the board was in February 2 years ago. And that was a handout on how to speak and what to speak about when you attend a public meeting. The good news is that problem disappeared because we got to Zoom a month later, and we haven't really had disruptive meetings since we went to Zoom. So that piece of the SOP is now moot. We will get to the SOP committee, but I'd like to get the ordinance caught up and the master plan started before we talk too much about SOP. We seem to be getting along well without it. And the last committee on the list is the Prism Adjustments Committee. And Mr. Jones, do you have anything to report there?
No, I have nothing to report.
As I recall, that committee exists from last year, and it was Brendan and Alan and Tom. And if you're agreeable, we'll leave the committee structure just like that.
No issues.
Fine.
Fine. All right then. Do we have any old business that anyone would like to bring up that we haven't talked about yet? New business.
Just welcome the new professional to the board.
Yes, here. Welcome, Samantha.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I do look forward to meeting you guys in person at some point, and I'm looking forward to a very exciting year together and hopefully reviewing some new and exciting applications. So, and I believe you guys all have my contact information. So, and again, if you ever need any assistance, questions, clarifications, feel free to reach out at any time.
Be careful what you ask of Samantha. She
That's
has
all
an,
right. Not a
she has
problem.
an eagle eye and the claws of a hawk.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question actually, just real quickly. Samantha, do you have any experience or can you share what the status is with climate vulnerability assessments that I understand are now a requirement to be integrated into the master plan process?
I have just, actually, it's funny that you bring this up. This is the second board in a week that has brought this up. So I have not delved into it quite yet, but it sounds like this is going to be a discussion item on a lot of boards. So I think it's something that in the next couple months, definitely going to be getting experience in, and as well as all my colleagues that do represent other boards as well. So I think collectively we'll have a lot to report back to you within short time.
Right. And Liz, I didn't want to discount too. I don't know if you had also experienced these, but we're going to be looking for assistance to respond to that requirement in the master plan. So any examples or thoughts as to, because this seems to be obviously a fairly a newer requirement that people are all trying to get up to speed on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just finishing up a first master plan where we have this component. So
Good.
yes.
Right.
There is an online seminar about storm flooding in New Jersey, improving stormwater management and preparedness. It's online Thursday, the 20th. I will send this blurb around, and I would encourage all of you, at least those who are working on the master plan and our professionals, to register for improving stormwater management and preparedness.
Right.
You'll love it. Just don't allow any more flooding on the day of a street fair.
Just say no.
Any other new business? All right. It's now 9:58. Does anyone want to move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Great
Good
night.
night.
Bye.